winning the Miss USA title thrust her right into the spotlight. Hardcore, don't collect $200 when you pass go, like just you're right on Park Place, kind of boardwalk kind of thing. Did you worry that with this new international attention, that she was going to have a hard time dealing with the inevitable criticism and, cruelty from online trolls?
Cheslie had started experiencing trolling when she became Miss North Carolina, USA, because there's so many bloggers who follow pageants and others who, talked about her. I'll tell you what was interesting is before the actual preliminary pageant, no one had Cheslie on their bingo card. There were many in her class who people thought, this is the person, this is the one, because they wanted someone who compete on an international stage. And so, Cheslie wasn't making anybody's list. And then the preliminary pageant happened. I feel like people sensed this confident woman and those abs for days and the hair, and it was, who is she? And between the preliminary pageant and finals, people started noticing her, and she became a threat. And that is when the trolling started to escalate. And then when she won, it just reached a fevered pitch. And I've said this many times, pageant fans, and they have quite a following, primarily, in other countries where it's really, really big. They are not unlike NFL fans who will trash talk the other team and trash talk this person and trash talk that person. It's just in the world of pageantry, you're not on a team. You are there by yourself. And so, some of it Cheslie knew not to take personally. And some of it,
what were some of the things that would be said to her that she didn't take personally versus what she did?
When people would criticize her body.
She didn't take that personally.
She did not. She knew her body was amazing. She would tell people when she would be questioned about the swimsuit portion, and does that, kind of objectify women, and Cheslie would always share how hard she worked and earned every ripple in her ab, and she was proud to show it. That was not a place where people were going to get at her. There were many other ways and other comments that I could tell were kind of ruminating in her head.
She describes in the book, or you do, because this is during the part that is your chapters. In the book, and also in an article she wrote for Allure, it's revealed that she had attempted to take her life once before.
Yes.
Are you willing to talk about that?
Yes.
Where did that fit in her, in the pageantry circuit? Her beginning in the pageantry circuit versus winning the national title.
That was,
I believe you said it was 6 years. It was 6 years before before
yeah, because
she
she
passed.
was still in the America system.
Okay.
And she was 3 tries, and she won on her 3rd try in the USA system.
Okay. Can you describe or tell us how she had attempted and what were the circumstances around it, how you found out?
One of the cautions that guidance counselor gave us when we were talking to her about Cheslie and people like Cheslie is the threat of burnout and what happens when they burn out. It's like somebody trying to run a marathon at sprint speed. Eventually, things start to slow you down, even if you don't want to. And I kept that with me always. And so I would always tell Cheslie, you need to slow down. Cheslie was wrestling with a lot when she was in law school. She was at Wake Forest. She was, still involved in clubs and activities, but there's not a large Black population of attorneys in the law school. And so for her wrestling with all of that, along with a few things going on in her personal life,
Justin.
Justin. That
Young love,
yes,
let's
yes,
just chalk it up to
yes.
young love. But
yes,
boy,
but that was
after
not
reading,
Justin.
yeah.
It was, it was another person, but it wasn't any one thing. And as much as I've talked about mental health, mental illness, and suicide, people have constantly asked me, what was the trigger? Like, what was that thing? And
it wasn't just one thing.
It wasn't.
It was a myriad of things.
Yes, and Cheslie suffered with persistent depressive disorder, and I've talked about that a lot. It's like trying to go through life with a constant low-grade headache. And every day you're trying to figure out how to still do the things you need to do with this low-grade headache. Her depression was kind of always there. So when she would have depressive things happen to her, her low is lower than, say, mine or yours. And she knew the tools that she needed to keep kind of in her arsenal to fight it. I've described it many times like playing dominoes, setting dominoes up in a row. And if you tap just one domino, they're all the same size, the same weight, but if you tap one, they're going to continue to fall. For Cheslie, it was learning with her tools how to remove one so that they stopped and then go back and set them back up. And that is why, she used some of the language she did in her final note, that depression was just going to win that time around. So it wasn't, when she was in college, it wasn't that there was one thing. It was the culmination of things. And it was Cheslie living in a different town, and me honestly really thinking, she's got it together. I mean, I knew she had some rough days, some tough times, but for the most part, she's got it together.
It's hard to
it's the other ones I need to worry about.
It's hard to send them out into the world.
It is.
It's hard to send them out into the world, but you, as a parent, you have to, let them go and let them figure it out for themselves. And
Absolutely.
You just pray that you've armed them with enough of the tools that they can to, bob and weave and, and also just weather storms.
100%. When I got that phone call, and I talk about it, in the book, when I got that phone call and I, rushed to the hospital, and that was, it was really tough for her to talk about it. And I tell all my children constantly, there isn't anything you can do that will alter my love for you. I can say that, whether or not they believe that, two different things. Love and disappointment, I think, for them are two different spectrums. And so it was really tough, I knew, for her to talk about what had happened with this attempt and her being in the hospital. But when we got to the place that we could talk about it frankly, I learned so much about her, things that I didn't know before that first attempt.
She'd told you originally that she'd forgotten how much pain medication she'd taken for a headache, but then you discovered that it was not an accident, it was intentional.
That is correct.
Okay.
Cheslie suffered from terrible headaches, and that is a part of her depression. And so I knew that she had headaches. She was really not one to want to take Tylenol or ibuprofen. When she did, it was because it was bad. So, when she flung that out there,
you knew something was rotten in Denmark.
Right. Mm-hmm. But I'm not going to corner her or make her feel ashamed. When she's ready to talk about it, she would talk about it. That was kind of my thinking. But I was talking very openly and frankly with the physicians who were monitoring her health.